She didn't flinch when the red and blue lights snapped on behind her, but the moment Officer Chad stepped out his cruiser, one hand already resting on his holster, Aaliyah felt the cold shift in the air. The empty road was silent, too silent. He didn't ask for her license. He didn't even greet her. He just leaned into her window, eyes crawling over her face with that slow, poisonous smirk. Well, expensive car for someone like you, he whispered. Step out, now. Aaliyah stepped into the freezing night, her pulse steady, her expression unreadable. But Chad wasn't looking for calm. He was looking for fear. And when she didn't give him any, his smile sharpened. You think you belong in this neighborhood? Driving this kind of car. He circled her like a predator choosing the best angle to strike, flashlight dragging across her skin like a threat. This BMW isn't yours, sweetheart. Don't make this harder. He said it loud, loud enough for the darkness to hear it, loud enough to turn humiliation into a weapon. But Aaliyah didn't break. She just stood there with that quiet strength he mistook for weakness. What Chad didn't know, the one thing that would soon destroy him, is that he had just picked the worst possible woman to mess with. If this already made your blood boil, hit like and subscribe right now, because stories like this are still happening and the world needs to hear them. Officer Chad stepped closer, breathing confidence he hadn't earned. Here's what we're gonna do. You give me a little something for my time, and I forget this stolen vehicle situation. He tapped her hood like he owned it. And don't get smart with me. I know how to deal with attitudes. Aaliyah's eyes stayed forward. Calm, controlled, almost too controlled. He hated that. Look at me when I'm talking to you, he snapped, grabbing her wrist. Not enough to leave a bruise, just enough to let her feel the power he thought he had. Aaliyah lifted her gaze, and for the first time, something flickered in Chad's expression. Not fear, he was too arrogant for that, but confusion, because she wasn't pleading. She wasn't shaking. She was memorizing him, his badge number, his stance, the exact tone he used when he said, "Women like you never fight back." The street stayed quiet, but something in the darkness shifted, like the night itself was waiting for his downfall. Chad didn't notice. Chad never noticed. He just smirked again and said a line that sealed his fate. "You're nothing but an easy stop." Aaliyah didn't answer. She didn't need to, because this stop, this night, this cop was about to become the biggest mistake of his career. Diner's Corner smelled like burnt coffee and cheap bacon. Exactly the kind of place Officer Chad loved. He sat in his usual booth, boots kicked out, ego 10 sizes bigger than his badge. "Man, you should have seen her face," he bragged to the rookie across from him. A little attitude at first, but once I pressed her, soft as butter. He laughed loud, too loud, earning glances from nearby tables. But Chad lived for attention, especially when the story made him sound powerful. He stirred his coffee with a swagger that didn't match his life, slurping it dramatically before adding, "Black woman, brand new BMW, late at night. They act brave till you remind them who runs the streets." The rookie nodded awkwardly, unsure if he should laugh. Chad didn't need encouragement. His arrogance fueled itself. 3 tables behind him, a woman silently closed the cover of her book. She wasn't reading anymore. She was listening. Every word, every detail, every racist joke he disguised as police talk. It was Aaliyah, but Chad didn't recognize her in daylight. Hair tied back, hoodie on, face half hidden behind her coffee steam. He never noticed the people he hurt, only the power he thought he had over them. Aaliyah didn't stare, didn't make eye contact, didn't even flinch when he mimicked her voice mockingly. "Officer, please, I didn't do anything," he laughed again, slapping the table. "Like I haven't heard that 100 times. His voice carried across the diner, like a confession begging for consequences. He didn't see the phone on Aaliyah's knee, didn't see the recording running, didn't see the calm calculation in her eyes. She wasn't gathering revenge. She was gathering evidence. Chad leaned back, stretching. "I swear, man, these women, they think they're safe in fancy neighborhoods. They forget who really has the power." His rookie shifted uncomfortably. "Was everything legit?" Chad grinned. "Legit enough. No one questions a cop. Aaliyah's jaw tightened for the first time, just slightly, not from fear, from a promise she made silently. He would never speak those words again. The waitress passed by, refilling cups. Chad winked at her and said, "And tonight, I'm driving that route again. Might get lucky twice." Aaliyah stood up calmly, phone sliding into her sleeve. Her steps were unhurried, her expression unreadable. But one thing was certain. Officer Chad had no idea he had just bragged his way into his own destruction, and the woman he targeted last night was already building the first crack in his armor. Aaliyah didn't return to that dark road because she was afraid. She returned because she knew men like Officer Chad always slipped, always pushed one step too far, always assumed a black woman would stay silent. But tonight, she wasn't there to be silent. She was there to watch him expose himself again. If this happened in front of you, what would you do? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. And if you stand for fairness, hit subscribe. The streetlights flickered as Chad pulled over another car, a silver sedan driven by a young black guy named Deshaun. Aaliyah parked across the road, lights off, windows cracked just enough to hear. She didn't need to get close. She already knew how this would play out. Chad tapped on Deshaun's window with the same arrogance, the same lazy confidence he had last night. "License and registration," he said, even though the kid had already handed him over. He just wanted to stall, to intimidate, to find something, anything, to twist into power. "I didn't do anything, officer," Deshaun said quietly. Chad smirked. "Funny," that's what the last one said. "You people act innocent till the cuffs come out." Aaliyah's grip tightened on her steering wheel. Not from shock, she expected this. From certainty. This was the pattern. This was the evidence. This was the moment she needed. She lifted her phone, turned on the directional mic, and captured every word. Chad made Deshaun step out, hands raised, even though there was no probable cause. No reason. No threat. Just racism hiding behind a badge. "You fit the description." Chad lied, like it was a script he had recited 100 times. For what? For existing in the wrong place. Aaliyah could hear the fear in Deshaun's breathing, could see the way Chad's hand hovered a little too close to his weapon, could feel the injustice simmering in the air like a storm waiting to break. But she didn't intervene. Not yet. This wasn't about stepping in. It was about ending him. Chad shoved Deshaun's shoulder and whispered, "If you don't want trouble tonight, make it worth my time." The rookie officer beside him looked horrified but stayed silent. That was it, the moment Aaliyah needed, the line that would end his career, the proof that turned corruption into a documented crime. She hit save, locked the screen, and whispered to herself, "Now we begin," because Chad didn't just harass a random woman. He harassed the wife of the one man he should have feared most, the chief. Officer Chad sat in his patrol car later that night, bragging over the radio about how productive his shift had been. But just a few blocks away, inside a quiet black SUV, Aaliyah tapped her screen once, and every recording, every timestamp, every racist threat sinks straight into a secure folder labeled with one name: Chief Malik Jordan, her husband, the man Chad unknowingly worked under, the man whose badge outranked everyone in the district, including Chad himself, and the man who was about to learn what happened to his wife last night. If you believe this should never happen again, share this now. And to my USA, UK, and Canadian viewers, your voice is power. Use it. Aaliyah stepped quietly into their home office, the glow of the desk lamp revealing stacks of reports her husband had been fighting through for months. Complaints, patterns, incidents involving black drivers targeted on late-night routes, all marked with one disturbing similarity: Chad's shift. Malik looked up when she entered, exhaustion heavy in his eyes. "Long night?" he asked gently. Aaliyah didn't answer. She just placed her phone on the desk and hit play. Chad's voice filled the room instantly. "You people always play innocent until I remind you who has the power." Then another recording. "Give me something for my time, and this goes away." Another. "You don't belong in this neighborhood anyway." Malik froze, not because of the words, he had read them in dozens of reports, But because this time, the target wasn't a stranger, it was his wife. His jaw clenched, his hands tightened. But Aaliyah placed a calming hand on his shoulder. "Not anger," she whispered. "Not yet. Precision first." They sat together, playing each file, lining up every moment. The audio from the diner, the clip with Deshawn, the threats, the abuse, the extortion attempt. Malik opened a secure portal, cross-checking timestamps with patrol car GPS logs. "Every incident you recorded," he said slowly, "matches the complaints filed in the past 2 months." "And the ones from before?" she asked. He sighed. "Even worse." Another window opened, body cam logs. Chad had a habit of malfunctioning his camera whenever he wanted freedom to act. But tonight, Aaliyah had footage that didn't need his camera. Malik leaned back, exhaling. "You didn't just catch him," he said. "You caught the entire pattern." Aaliyah nodded. "This isn't about what he did to me," she said softly. "This is about what he's been doing to everyone." Malik picked up the phone, dialing a number only high-ranking officers knew. "Internal Affairs," he said when the line clicked. "I have something you need to hear." Chad had no idea that while he enjoyed his night of power, Aaliyah and Malik were already building a cage he would soon walk into himself. Internal Affairs didn't sleep that night. By sunrise, 3 unmarked cars sat behind the precinct, engines humming low as officers filed into a secure conference room. Chad walked right past them with a donut in his hand, never even looking to a frosted glass where his entire career was already laid out like a crime scene. Inside, Chief Malik stood at the head of the table, arms crossed, jaw carved in stone. On the screen behind him, a playback of Chad's voice saying, "Women like that never fight back." Silence hit the room like a slap. The IA director swallowed. "Sir, this is worse than we thought." Malik didn't blink. "Keep listening." Aaliyah had provided everything. The nighttime stop, the diner confession, the extortion attempt with Deshawn, the slurs, the threats, the body cam malfunctions. And with every clip, IA agents took more notes, exchanged darker looks, adjusted timelines, and built a web of misconduct that was no longer suspicion, but a full corruption pattern. Meanwhile, Chad strutted around the station like he owned the place. He joked with officers, slapped lockers, bragged about another productive night, and winked at the rookie he dragged along for his racist lessons. He had no idea the walls were listening. No idea every smirk was numbered. No idea his downfall was already scheduled. Behind the conference doors, an agent clicked to the next slide. 47 total complaints attached to his badge number. 12 eyewitness statements, matching his late-night stops. For prior warnings ignored by supervisors. 1 recorded attempt at bribery. And now, recorded proof of everything. 1 IA officer exhaled. "We arrest him now?" Malik shook his head. "No, not yet." Another officer frowned. "But sir, this is enough to strip his badge today." Malik stepped closer to the screen, his voice calm, controlled, deadly quiet. He humiliated people in silence, in the dark, alone, no witnesses, no accountability. He turned, so his downfall needs to happen the opposite way. Aaliyah, seated in the back of the room, met Malik's eyes. She already understood. Public, visible, irreversible. A reminder to every cop who thought the badge was a weapon instead of responsibility. Malik continued. "We'll gather statements, automate the evidence logs, prep the suspension order, and notify the state board. But the moment we take him down," he paused, "every camera in this building will be rolling." Outside, unaware of the quiet storm forming behind the glass, Chad bit into his donut and grinned. He thought today would be easy. He didn't know today was the beginning of the end. The precinct auditorium buzzed with quiet chatter as officers filed in for the morning briefing. Promotion day, a ceremony Chad had been bragging about for weeks. He'd polished his boots twice, ironed his uniform 3 times, and practiced his humble but proud smile in the mirror until he believed it. He strutted toward the front row, chest puffed, shaking hands he normally ignored. "Big day, huh?" the rookie said. Chad smirked. Big day for the department. They finally recognized real work. He didn't notice the subtle shift in the room. How officers avoided eye contact, how whispers halted when he passed, how even the chief's assistant didn't congratulate him. On stage, Chief Malik stood tall, expression unreadable. Aaliyah sat in the third row, calm, composed, wearing a simple black coat. Chad glanced her way but didn't recognize her. The lighting was soft and arrogance made him blind. The ceremony began. The department's PR officer read a speech about excellence, leadership, and service a community. Chad soaked in every word like it was written for him. Then Malik stepped to the microphone. "Today," he said steadily, "we highlight integrity." A murmur rippled across the room. Chad smiled, adjusting his uniform. This was his moment, his victory, his reward. Then his phone buzzed. A single notification. Unknown number. "Do you remember the woman in the BMW?" Chad's smile froze. A second notification. "Check your email." Now, he swallowed, lowering his hand to unlock his phone discreetly. His inbox loaded, and his heart stopped. A folder, labeled, Internal Affairs Evidence, Officer Chad inside, the nighttime stop, the diner confession, the threats to Deshawn, the microphone recordings, GPS logs, complaint lists, audio, video, dozens of files, all proof, all organized, all damning. A third notification arrived. In 5 minutes, this will be sent to the state inspector general, the DA, and every major news outlet. Unless you tell the truth yourself. Chad's breath hitched. He scanned the room and locked eyes with Aaliyah. She slowly removed her sunglasses. Recognition hit him like a punch. "You," he whispered. She didn't nod. She didn't smile. She just held his gaze, calm, steady, unshakable, the same way she had on that dark road. Malik spoke again. "Integrity," he repeated. "It means doing the right thing, even when no one is watching." The final notification vibrated in Chad's hand. "Your choice. Confess, or be exposed." The room tilted. His legs weakened. The rookie watched him, confused. Officers whispered. The tension thickened. Malik turned toward him. "Officer Chad," he said, "step forward." Chad staggered to the stage, palms sweating, pulse out of control. He faced a microphone, hundreds of eyes on him, his lies collapsing around him like shattered glass. His voice cracked. I need to say something." The room fell dead silent, because everyone knew when a man like Chad trembled, truth was about to break him open. Chad's voice shook as the auditorium held its breath. Every officer stared. Every camera pointed at him. And for the first time in his career, he didn't feel powerful. He felt exposed. I've done things I shouldn't have," he stuttered. Murmurs rippled through the room. He swallowed hard. "I targeted people who didn't deserve it. I abused my authority. I crossed lines." He couldn't say more. He didn't need to, because the doors at the back of the auditorium opened, and Internal Affairs entered, badges raised. The lead investigator stepped forward. "Officer Chad, you are hereby placed under immediate suspension pending criminal charges, including extortion, misconduct, and racial profiling." Gasps, shock, disbelief. Officers turned, whispering violently. The rookie who once admired him stepped back, like he didn't want to be contaminated by the association. Chad's eyes darted toward Aaliyah. She stood slowly, graceful, centered, not triumphant, just done. Their eyes met one last time. No hatred, no fear, just a truth he had never expected. The woman he tried to intimidate was the one who ended him. Malik moved beside his wife, placing a steady hand on her back. Not possessive, but proud, protective, grateful. Chad was handcuffed on stage in front of every officer he had ever bragged to, belittled, or bullied. The cuffs clicked louder than any applause could have. As IA led him away, reporters swarmed the entrance. Flashes exploding, microphones raised, live broadcasts rolling. His downfall wasn't quiet. It wasn't hidden. It wasn't merciful. It was public, documented, and permanent. Hours later, the station finally emptied. Aaliyah stepped outside with Malik into the evening breeze. Cars passed. Leaves rustled. The world moved on. But something inside Aaliyah shifted. Not revenge. Not triumph. Just peace. A quiet knowledge that she had protected more than herself. She had protected every future black driver who might have crossed Chad's path. Malik squeezed her hand. "You ended it," he said softly. Aaliyah exhaled, the weight gone from her chest. "No," she whispered. "We ended him." Share this if you believe no one should ever abuse their badge. And subscribe for more dark truths where justice always wins.